So, as you may know, I bought this back attachment a few months back, and with that I got a grapple, which, well, I mean, it's not the best thing in the world, definitely seen better days, but it should be fine for what I'm gonna use it for. So in this video we're just gonna fix it up a bit and make sure that it works so we can use it. And we're also gonna add some more auxiliary hydraulic outlets on the back attachment and some other stuff. So this thing, it shouldn't really be any problems with the grapple itself, except that it's kind of worn and sloppy. But I think that should be fine, and this cylinder there should be all fine. But this here, that makes it so you can turn the grapple around, well, they've been open to the weather for, I have no idea how long, but probably a long time, so it could be all kinds of crap and rust and shit in there. And I don't want to just hook up some hoses and hope that it works, because, well, it doesn't really matter if I ruin anything because it's maybe ruined in there, but I can contaminate the rest of the hydraulic system, and that's not good. So let's take out these 4 bolts and take a look and see what it looks like inside there. Oh. So this thing is just loose on here. Should be able to just pull this up. Maybe not. There it goes. And that's what I thought. Look at that. That's all ice, which means it's water, but it's frozen now. So, I don't know much about hydraulics. So that looks like that's the actual seal. That, oh, it's not that hard maybe, but pretty hard. And then that's a wear band. And that makes sure it kind of rides on that. This whole piston kind of rides on that. And so it's not actually wearing on the seal. It's not laying and pushing against the seal. This is what actually contacts the barrel. And well, this is just a gear, well, I don't know what you call it, a shaft with a gear tooth cut in it, and then it's a gear down there, and then you just put hydraulic pressure here and you just push this down, and then this turns that way, and then you obviously can push it the other way. And I think that is not really any rust in here. I think that is mostly just gunk. Maybe it's a little rust here, but it's not much. It's not like it's gonna be pitted or anything. It looks actually nice and clean. So just have to clean that out real well. Let's turn it out over and let's remove this one. was easy. It is a little sloppy, but yeah, it's mostly, I think, coming from that these aren't centered in here. But I don't think that looks too bad in here, maybe. I think it's mostly dirt, so... Well, I do think that brown right there is a bit of rust, but let's clean these out. So I just got this cleaned up just enough so we can see what we are working with here. And you can see that it's definitely a good bit more rust than I thought it was, just when we took it apart, but definitely not too bad for being open. Sure, it's just through that tiny little hole, but still, I don't know how long it's been open, but yeah. Anyway, not too much rust. It's, you know, it is definitely a little pitted in a couple places, but what are you gonna do? So, I think I can just hone those out just to clean it up a little bit, and I think it should be good enough. And on this, I've done a little closer inspection. These seals, I'm gonna go ahead and get some new one of those. And then I said this was all sloppy. And when this thing lays down like that, I think you can see that it's not at all in the center of that hole. And I hope you can see in there, it's a little, I don't know what it is, but a little piece of brass maybe, that this rides against in there. And that's probably so when you push here, this thing, and you're trying to turn this, and this gear is probably getting quite a bit of pressure that way, and then you don't want all the pressure on these pistons here. So it's probably should ride against that piece, but that gotta be massively worn or just something. So I could just put it together and hope it works, but I kind of don't like that idea. So I think while I'm at it here and hit this apart, I think let's just take everything apart. No, but let's, I think I want to fix that piece at least, fix it up a little better, and... So let's see if we can get this apart here. I thought that would be tight, but it was, well, hand tight really. we got lucky. This thing isn't even tight. Well, you know, a little bit, but not bad. I'm gonna get an extension and this is just screw it out. I really thought that these would be just super stuck. And this is just a thrust washer, something like that. Or no, it's not a thrust washer, it's a thrust bearing, because it has ball bearings. A washer has like rollers, I think, instead of bearings, and it's thinner. Or maybe I'm wrong, I don't know. Anyway, put that right there. I think it should just, yeah, right. Just to pull this off. Shouldn't said anything, should I? It's not coming anymore. I just thought that this would just slide off now, but it doesn't. See all the play in that pin there. Just a slight little bit of slop in that. Let's see if we can remove this split pin here, because then we could just pull this pin out and get this whole thing on the bench. So I still don't know how you get it apart, but let's at least take this piece out. Just gonna remove that snap ring. And then this thing should just come off. And by the way, they have put this seal the wrong way. So like they put it, the pressure should be this on this side, but pressure is actually on this side, so that seal is facing the wrong way. So this shouldn't be too stuck on here, hopefully. But I thought this was the easiest way to get it off. Oh, that's how you take that apart. That's smart of them. There we go. But you see that? That's just a washer. And then that looks like that. And that makes it so this seal is extremely easy to just put on there, because you just slide it on. If not, if this would have been one piece, you had to kind of get this seal over this edge, which is not super easy. So that made it a lot easier for me, both to take it off and put it on. So that's nice. And now I should be able to just spin that out. Gonna have to catch it there. Oh, there we go. so just hit myself with a hammer right there. That just hurts a little bit. But I just figured out that I maybe doesn't need to take this apart, even if I might as well do it now, because it's a thread here, and that, you can see, pushes that out. Right, wait a minute. You can push that out, so it will touch that one. Just missing a bolt there. And that was one of the reasons I've taken this apart. But it's just so dirty and crappy, and I pretty much have it apart. So I might as well take it the rest of the way apart and yes, there we go. Finally got this thing apart. And there you can see it's a couple teeth that is broken off. And some of the teeth here are pretty done worn. They're kind of thin right there. You see they're pretty thin in comparison to that. Yeah, this needs a good cleanup. Pretty nasty. And also why it went so hard. I don't know what that is. But anyway, you can see these lines there. I don't know if all of them I made, but I think some of these teeth that are worn kind of have a little burr sticking up, and then that kind of, this gear is the same diameter as the hole, and then if a burr sticks out, it's too large to come out, so that was why it was kind of hard to get out. But so I got everything taken apart here, but it's pretty dirty, so let's get this thing outside and let's get it cleaned up. But before I can clean this, I need to take this apart. At least it wasn't a tiny spring that you can't find. That wasn't too hard. I just landed on the floor. Come off of there. There we go. Now I can clean this too. Do some degreaser here. And I just got a new thrust washer here. Then for this ring that was put right there in that groove, I don't really know what it is, but it looks a lot like this, which is just a wear band that was put here. So I just ordered a bigger one, and I think that's just so this thing, it doesn't get metal on metal contacts. It's this thing wears instead of the metal. So it's kind of too long, but I think I can just cut it down and it should work. But these teeth here are kind of worn, so let's grind these down. Or they kind of have a little burr on them. That's why it was so hard to knock out. So let's get that ground down. No, just a little bit more. Kind of goes in there. That's much better. That's a lot better. Now get it stick. Come on. Shouldn't have said anything. There we go. And it is pretty grooved in there, but whatever. It is what it is. I don't think I made all those grooves. I think somebody had this apart before and had the same problem. And then this does fit there, and it fits in there, but it's just a little too long. It needs to be cut off a little bit. Right there. And then I'm just gonna cut the other one straight too, because that's easier. Just need to cut this off. Huh, just a hair too long. Probably wouldn't do it like this for a hydraulic cylinder, but for something like this, I think that's perfectly good enough. And let's just get some grease on this thing before I put it in. Come on. Get in there. Probably not the best way to do it, but it works. If I can get this thing into the hole. Oh, there we go. Perfect. Then this thrust washer is put in a pretty stupid place because it's just out here, which is right out in the elements. It's not protected by anything, but I don't know. Not much to do about it either. So just gonna put it back like it was. And the problem is it's gonna get all kinds of dirt and water, and it's gonna get rusty and nasty like the old one. But not much to do about it. Just gonna make sure to get the good bit of grease on it at least. That's too much. So, there we go. Got it spinning nice and free in there. That's perfect. So, let's get these old seals off. And just these wear bands. Take those off. Peel that off. And like that. Those. Yeah, I'm just gonna take these and wash them down with some brake cleaner, and then we can get the new seals put on. And get some new seals here. Just ready to put on. Just like that. And then, well, now we're gonna see. So this thing goes on the right way. This was put like that. That's how it's gonna be put, because one of these was put like that. And that will be the wrong way, so gonna remember like that. And like that, I think. Because then the pressure is out here, and then the pushes against the seal like that, and then it kind of pushes into here, I think, and the seal also gets pushed out kind of against the wall and the inside the tube, so it seals. That seal keeps popping off, but anyway, these are finished up. Also clean that, but now let's get this old O-ring out. It's completely buggered up. We don't need that anymore. The problem is, when I ordered these seals, completely forgot to order these O-rings, but I went into town and, well, they didn't have any in the right size, so got some that was thicker, but they fit in here, in there. But this groove is too narrow, so, but unfortunately for me, I have a lathe, so let's just pop this in the lathe and make these grooves a little wider and deeper. That's 25, and I need 23 roughly, and that's 2.8, and I need 3.4, so I need to open that up a good bit more. Oh, I hope that works. Not sure. It's almost like I turned it a little too small. But I think that will work, so let's turn it around and do the other side too. So let's just put this O-ring on. And also on this side. Yeah, that side is the loose side. Just put a little oil on that. To help it slide on a little easier, like that. Put that on. And then that. And just to try to get that C-clip on. Yeah, that's seated in there. That should be good. And I can put that on before I put it through there. Should just be to slide this thing in here. And now it's the trouble of lining this up. So I want this thing like that. And well, I can't just push this in like that. Because if I push this in, this will turn. So I have to turn it a little bit like that and then push it in. And also want this thing to be like that. And then I want this thing to be this thing right here to bottom out in there. So I think if I just have to guess, but then I'm gonna turn this a little like that and push that in and screw that in, and then I just have to measure right from there to the end here then, and that's gonna be roughly 16.5. And I think that will be good, because then I will turn this thing all the way that way, and then the grapple will be 90 degrees, so the log will go like that, and then I can turn it that way, and then it will be like that, if that makes any sense. I don't know. Oh yeah, so this thing will turn 180 degrees. I think that right there, and that will be right there, and that will be pretty much, I suppose you can't get it 100%, but that will be pretty much parallel, so the log will be like that, 90 degrees to the boom, and then you can just push it over there. Now it's like straight with it, kind of, and then you turn it into there. Yeah, now it will be like that again. Well, I suppose that's good. I got it on the first try. That's nice. And I'm also avoiding that damaged spot, so I think that's perfect. So let's just get this seal, or this end put on. Oh, there we go. This was the end where I didn't turn the groove so deep, and I think that's better, but the other side I should be just fine. Tiny little hammer. Perfect. And that seems to work perfectly. And now for these, and well, they're actually not as bad as I thought they were before I took it apart, but it's still a little bit of rust and stuff in there. But I think I can hone that out no problem, so let's do that. So I got one of these three-legged hones here, which you usually use for maybe other things too, but to hone cylinders in engines. And I think this is kind of a similar thing, so I hope this works. And when you're honing in an engine, you want the cylinder to have a nice crosshatch, have a slow RPM and move slowly. But I don't want that here because I don't want to wear the seals too much. So I thought to have a high RPM and move fairly slowly. And I don't know. We'll see if it works. I hope it works. And then I thought it'd kind of make a finer thinness. I don't know. Anyway, let's get to honing here. And another thing, you're gonna have some really thin oil to lubricate it. So you can really see the low spots now and everything, so I'm gonna have to run a lot more, and the finish is maybe a little coarse for this, I don't know, but I don't have another hone, so just gonna use this and hope it works. And I suppose we'll see if it works, because if it doesn't work, it will leak, so. Scored in there, but well, only way to get rid of that is to replace this whole barrel. But I think it's starting to look pretty good. Oh, good enough anyway. And all these marks and kind of depend impressions, you can't hardly feel them. Or I suppose that one you can kind of feel, but I don't know. I'm gonna hone it a little more, and then it's just to hone the other one too, and clean it out, and it should be good enough. So I got these cleaned out, and you can see a lot of marks and other dents in there, but it's a couple little scratches that I might want to get out because they might gonna hurt the seal, but then I just have to hone a ton out. And all these other little marks, you can't really feel it, and the only way to get rid of all that scratches and everything is just to replace the barrel, but that is a lot of work that I don't want to do right now. And if this ends up not working with just holding it, I can always go and just replace it in the future. I removed all the surface rust and all the little rubbish, and it feels pretty nice and smooth in there now, so I think it's good enough. And if I have any problems in the future, it's not really hard to just take those 4 bolts off, take the hose off and pull that out and do whatever to fix it. So, but anyway, let's just get these put on. And I'm just gonna start with putting some grease on this. And you may be thinking now, well, didn't you put this on the wrong way? Because you usually want this wear band in the oil, and now the oil is over here. And well, yes, you probably want that thing in the oil to get it nice and lubricated, but I can't really put it in the oil because if I put the seal there, it will almost come off the edge here, so I can't really do that. And then if it goes off the edge, it will leak, obviously, so that's not good. So it's just kind of have to be like that. Kind of a dumb design maybe, but I don't know, it is what it is. So just gonna put some grease on it to try to lubricate it, and I hope it should be fine. I have been fine with the old one, so whatever. And just a little oil on the seal. And this should just be to try to slide this on. We should have put a little oil in the barrel too before, but whatever. It should be fine. Just fine. I hope so anyway. And that side should be good now. And just to do the same thing on the other side. And I just got 2 things left to do before this thing is finished. Or maybe it's actually a couple more, but anyway. The first thing is that little brass piece or whatever it is in there. Needs to be pushed up against this rod that goes in here. For that I just cut a little piece of threaded rod to screw in there. And just a nut. I think it ended up being a little long, but whatever. And then the nicest thing would be to cut a hex on the end or use a bolt, but who got time for that? So I'll just use it like it is. You just have to get the grinder and cut this down a little bit. Get a little too long. Well, that should be good like that. And the last thing I want to do is just to replace this grease fitting because it's kind of smashed up. Just to screw it into there. And like that. Perfect. And with that, this thing is completely rebuilt. Kind of. It's plenty functional anyway. Don't need that anymore. Then I can just remove this second plug. I just brought the other one with it to the hydraulic shop, so I got the right fitting with the right threads. So the backhoe attachment here got 1 pair of auxiliary hydraulic outlets, but we need 2. One pair for the grapple and 1 pair for the rotor or whatever it's called. In fact, with the valve block got 1 spot for another function. We just need to run the hoses out on the boom. And preferably I would probably not use this thing in the front, because then this thing would be higher and this bend can go straight over. But the hydraulic shop I went to did not have one of these with the right threads, so I need to have this little block on both the back one and the front one. But that's no problem, that should work still just fine. There we go. And then we can just get this hose put on, or both of them I suppose. And for some reason I just ended up buying 1/2-inch quick couplers. I know that's kind of oversized and I definitely don't need anything else than 3/8, but that's just what happened. And then I just ended up running 1/2-inch hoses too, and that's why I needed these adapters there to go from the 3/8 to the 1/2-inch there. And don't ask me why I went with 1/2-inch and not 3/8. I really don't know myself, honestly. Perfect. And here, I'm just gonna zip tie these hoses to these hydraulic pipes here. That should be good enough. And I'm gonna put 1 male and 1 female on here, because when you come with the other hoses you can just hook them up one way, because if you put the same you can hook them up, you know, either way. And then for example, when you push the control forwards one time, the grapple opens, but the next time you hook up the hoses differently, and then when you push the control forward the grapple closes, and that will just be really annoying. And I just bought some of these, I don't know, hose clamps. I know it's not called that, but whatever. You just weld them onto whatever you want to mount the hose to, and then you just clamp the hoses like that. Pretty nice and simple. And I thought I could just, you know, do like this and have it just put on like that and have it mount these things very nice and easy. And it works and it's super nice and easy, but you can see there it's kind of tight in between these, and I could make something that was a little better probably, but I don't feel like doing that. So I just think I'm gonna move this up a little bit and then I can kind of bend these apart. It's not like I'm gonna be taking these apart the whole time, so I think that should be fine. Just gonna weld them and it's gonna be mounted like that, kind of right there. I think that should be perfect. It wasn't even hot, but I suppose that's good. So let's get the hoses put on. Just to put that back. Just to get the hoses. That should work. And I did angle this piece kind of out like that, so these would be a little space behind these. So I have this hose protection left. I don't think I have any place that I intended to have this thing, so I thought I'll just put this right here to protect these hoses right here. I think that's looking pretty nice now. Also just changed place on these hoses, so it runs a little nicer up here because it was kind of twisted around like that before. That's a lot better. And you can see here, it's really not hard to put that on. Because you can all flex these things a little bit when it's mounted on that, when it's clamped on that hose there, so that's all good. It's just, except this is a little hard to put on one-handed, but you know. And now for the other side, which is these. I'm not just gonna put these on the ends here. I'm gonna try to remove this and kind of pull these out and run them a little bit on the side and do kind of similar mounting to this on this side. But let's start with just taking that bolt out, pulling this forwards and getting this out on the side. It's screwed off by hand. Well, that's not gonna work, is it? The whole boom is sitting on there, so it's having pressure in this thing and pulling on this bolt down, so I have to support it under here to pull that bolt out. Huh, come on. That didn't work. That worked. And I should be able to just pull these out. Kind of, maybe. There we go. And I should just... There, just put that back in now. So I just made my own little clamp here, or not clamp, but kind of one of these, but that worked for these 12mm pipes. And then I think I'm gonna do this the simplest way, and I'm just gonna take that bolt off, weld the bolt right there, weld this thing right down here, and then just move these pipes to the side. And then I just got these, and just gonna bolt these onto the pipe like that. problem is that this pipe is very straight, but it's fairly straight anyway. But this one is pretty crooked here, and that's kind of dumb. So you're gonna have to try to bend that back so it's straight enough, or a little bit straighter at least. That's not gonna work. I probably should have just taken this pipe off and put it in a vise and try to bend it back straight, but I don't know. Actually, let's do that. That's better. Oh, wasn't really any oil in it. Or that was a lot easier, and it's well, a lot straighter. Not perfect, but a lot straighter. I think that's good enough. So what do you think of that? I think that actually turned out pretty nice. I thought it would look way worse with these old pipes and so crooked and stuff, but I think that's pretty okay. And I just have to cut these pipes off and put these on like that. So I'm just gonna try to clean these ends up a little here. And then I'm gonna put these on right now, which I forgot on the other side. And that is just to plug that in there. We ain't using it, so it's not gonna get any dirt in there. And just gonna put that on there. Hold that thing right there and screw this down tight. And making sure that I have this thing all the way up, that it doesn't slide down. I think there we go. That should be good right there. One of these that is gonna go on there. Oh, that's real tight right there. Get that off. It's just to screw this thing on. Oops. Screw that. There we go. Oh, poopies. There we go. Both of those are in place. That should be good. And that thing fits on there perfectly. Like that. just put this on here. Wow, well, that's not gonna work. Oh, it almost works. Just hitting the ground a little bit. It's a little bit sloppy. Just a little bit. I think it's easy to just lift it up and line it up that way. That's just the problem trying to line these up. Sometimes it's nice that everything is sloppy because it goes together much easier. And I'm just gonna do the same thing as it was before we took it apart. It's just a split pin in there. And I'm just gonna put a new one in. Good enough. Now we need some new hoses, at least for this to turn it, but I think we also need some new for this, for the grapple. So it's just to figure out how long they need to be. This is just how I figure out how long the hose is gonna be. I just put some rope and using the old lines and just put them how I want them, and then I just do all the functions and all the way. Make sure the hose doesn't get too tight anywhere and it looks good. Then I just mark how long it's gonna be, and these are just gonna be 40 centimeter longer. So let's remove these hoses here and take them to the hydraulic shop and get some new ones made. And I'm mostly removing these because then I know well, what end it should be on this. And we'll just pop plugs in there. And we'll just pop one in there too. This is to remove the other hose. Well, it's kind of hard to film there, and it's also hard to get to, but you can kind of unscrew it like this. Hope you can see something there. Oh, there we go. Finally. And I just got some new hoses, so let's go and start putting them on. And this was just something to protect it from some rain. Oh, the right size here, but it works. And I'm just gonna screw the same one in on this side. Not the same one, but yeah. There we go. That's that. And just gonna screw these together. Oh, that one gonna go on there. There we go. And then I'm just gonna screw one of these on here, a quick connect, and I'm just gonna hand tighten one on so we don't get any dirt in the hose. And that is because I don't know if it should be this one or this one, depending on how we put the hoses. So just gonna put that like that. And then we'll just do the same thing on this one. There we go. And these hoses are two different lengths. One is a little longer, and that is because I want one is just gonna go up here, and the other one is gonna come over, or maybe behind. I don't remember that, and then go up. That's all. We gotta see here. So this one's gonna go over there, and this one's gonna go over here. And let's just leave those like that for now, and then we'll get those other hoses hooked up for the grapple. And then I thought, this hydraulic cylinder is all full of old oil, so when we have the hoses off, I thought we could just try to push some of that oil out. I know I didn't do it on the other ones, which maybe was stupid, I don't know. But if I do it on this one, I at least done it on one, so it's better than leaving it. I don't know, but let's do that anyway. And this rod is kind of damaged, but let's try to hit it with some sandpaper, make it a little smoother, and get rid of the rust, so it's not going to tear the seals up as bad, at least. And I'm just going to leave this cylinder like it is and not do anything with it, and it's probably going to start leaking, but we're just going to take care of that when it starts leaking too much, so we can't use it anymore. It's still kind of damaged, but at least it's fairly nice and smooth, and it's no sharp edges, kind of, so it's good enough, or at least I can't make it any better. So let's just pull this plug out. It seems to be leaking a bit here, but so you can just put that like that, and now just to try to pull these, open it. To open it all the way, but the problem is this pin here, basically, so I can't get it under there. I really can't oil that good. Let's just try this little funnel here. See if we can catch it. So now we got one side emptied out. That's just to do the other, but look at that, that's a big grapple. Real big. I don't know if you can really get the perspective, but it's pretty freaking big. And this was all the way closed, which means that it wasn't any oil that I can push out on this side, so all the oil was pretty much on the other side, so it didn't come out anything, but now I can go and get the hoses put on. Then I like to open it up to get a little more access in there, but I need to let air in to do that, so let's just hook this together like that, and then I have an open end here, and I can just pull it in, open it. There we go. And now we just need to stick this hose through without getting any dirt in the end. Just plug that end, and actually before I put this in here, because this is going to be in here, I want to put the protection on before we put it in, because that's easier. So I hope you can see something there. That looks fairly clean in there. I think it is. So let's just get all these hoses wrapped in this protection. So I got that whole hose wrapped, and I think that's looking pretty good. Just to do the other three, but I don't think that's very interesting, so I'm just gonna go and get that done. So I got protection on all the rest of the hoses. Sadly, we ended up about 40 centimeters too short, so I'll have to just go and get a little piece for that or something. Or maybe I'll leave it, I don't know. But anyway, these two, we need to swap those around. So we can put that hose there and that hose there. I think these ended up being right, so we don't have to swap those over. But let's go ahead and get this tightened down so it's all finished. And then we'll just put some dust caps or whatever it's called on these. Come on. There we go. There we go. Oh. Now the hoses are, well, not finished completely, but the hoses are in place, kind of. The only thing left now is I have 4 of these, so I thought we'll just weld that on there. And then we can clamp the hoses to this so it's not. So the hoses doesn't need to be just hanging around. But it's kind of down at the ground, so it would be kind of nice to get this thing working. And then you can just lift it up and you don't need to work at the ground, kind of. So I think I'm gonna go and work on that instead of this, and yeah, I'll come back to this a little later. And I've just been messing around here for a little while because I want this to go high enough to clear a log trailer, forestry trailer, or whatever you call it. That'll most likely be in a future video. But I wanted to clear that so I can have that hooked to the tractor, and when I'm driving, because this is mounted to the tractor, I can't just put this down on the trailer. I'm gonna have to have it in the air, and I want it high enough so it's gonna clear it when I'm driving. And well, I haven't really found a good place to really have it. The only way I can clear it now is kind of having it straight back, but that's not gonna work to have it like that. And in the last video we got this put in place, a new hydraulic cylinder, and then we made it so, I don't know, maybe before it lifted that high, now it lifts a lot higher, so the boom is more straight up and down. Maybe it was just up here before, now it's there. But I think, as you saw there, you're gonna move this out a little bit so it clears, I don't know, up to here maybe. So this is up here, or this, because you will turn this in, and then this will kind of go like this, but it will be kind of too low over here then. So what we need to do is to cut this off and then weld it back on. So this, as it is now, this would be here maybe, or something like that. Except that I think it would be pretty good. And actually, you know what, before that, let's just check if it actually works. sorry you couldn't see that. But I just put it down on the ground here. And let's just... Well, the easiest thing is just to split it there again. And unhook the hoses and take this and put it on the bench in there and work it on there. That'll be the easiest. Yeah, let's do that. But except that, I think it works absolutely great. Can't see any massive leaks yet. One thing is that this is kind of messed up and the seals is probably not the best in here, but so far it doesn't seem to be pouring out at least. So that's something. Thought it would be worse actually, but... Yeah, right, you're gonna let off the pressure on this. Yeah, that's right, you're gonna have to let off all the pressure before you can do like that. Just put that on. Put this in there. Pour a bunch of oil out of there. There we go. And I kind of changed my mind a little bit how we're gonna make the grapple go up a little more. And that is because I was working on the bucket and I had this on here and I just realized that this doesn't curl enough this way or whatever it's called. So when you lift the boom up a lot, all the material is kind of just gonna fall out of the bucket. And or both buckets is like that, and then also the grapple. It just doesn't go, so I just realized that it doesn't go far enough that way. So what I think is a better idea than trying to fix the grapple and then still the bucket isn't gonna work that well. It's just to extend this a little bit, and then it's gonna make this thing go a little further, like this. So let's get this yanked off of here and extend it, I don't know, 2 centimeters or something like that. And by the way, look at this. It's just a little bit sloppy, just a little bit. And that's just also a little bit sloppy. Should have added a ratchet, that would have been smarter, but... There we go. That's just to knock that pin out. And I think the easiest way is just to cut this down the middle and then just put a piece inside it. And if this has a 5mm wall thickness, that I don't know that, but I hope that, because then I know exactly what piece I'm gonna use. But let's cut this in half and roughly the middle. Well, it's not 30mm inside diameter, but it's 33, but I think the piece I thought about would still work. It would just be a little sloppy. And this is the other bucket that I got with the backhoe attachment, and it's the digging bucket. And it has, so you're gonna literally just bolt it on, which I don't really want. So what I thought to do is just to cut all this junk off and weld an S30 mount to it so it fits on the quick coupler. And then I don't need this, so I thought we could just take this piece and use that to extend that other piece that we just cut in half. So let's try to remove this here. And this thing is quite sloppy in there. A little sloppier than I thought it would be, but I think I got a good idea. Good idea. Fix it. And I just thought to put a couple tacks on the corners of this thing to make it fit a little tighter in there, to kind of center it up. So I hope that should be good enough. I extended it about 2.5 centimeters. So let's go and put this on. Ouch. It's still freaking hot, but that's because this piece in here is solid. So it's gonna take a while for all that heat to disappear. Huh. That was the wrong way. I'm gonna have to pull that out. Ouch. Dang it. These pipes in the end here was different lengths. I just forgot to hit record, but I just lined the holes up, hammered the pin in, and screwed the bolt in. Which is pretty easy actually, because it's so sloppy. That's the only thing good with things being sloppy, is that it's usually easy to get together, even if I rather have it tight. Alright, I'm not gonna pull it completely tight. Like that, I think. And that's definitely a lot more angled that way now. So yeah, let's go and get that piece in there and get that put on, and see if that's enough or if we have to modify that. There we go. Get off of it. I think that's actually really good. Yeah, I'm really happy with that. And then the grapple will just hang down here. Quite a bit actually, but yeah, I think that's pretty good. And now the cutting edge of the bucket would be something like that. So yeah, I'm really happy with that. And it's not even hitting right there. Yeah, I think that's perfect actually. And while we have this thing apart from that, let's just take this thing in on the bench and weld on a couple little clamps here to hold the hoses in place today. And I just got to weld one here and one on the other side, and same thing on the other end. Just hold the hoses in place. It's kind of a little too wide, but I think it will work anyway. And I probably should have measured where I should weld them. I'm not 100% sure actually how far in I'm gonna go. But I think maybe like 23 centimeters, 25 centimeters. And then let's just see where's 20, like right there then. Something like that maybe. Because you want a bit of slack before it goes up. You don't want it all the way up at the end there or down here. I think that would actually be pretty good, 25 centimeters. I kind of measured out there on the grapple, and I think it would be better to have it 30 centimeters up there, like that. If not, it will be kind of tight with the hoses. So let's just go and get this back together. The hoses in place and clamp it, except that these clamps are, I don't know, like 1/2 mil too big. So when I clamp these together, it's like slides in there, but it's just tight. But you don't want it to slide, you want it actually clamped. So I think we just take this over to the belt grinder and just grind it off like 1/2 mil or something. It should be perfect. And I thought to take a little bit off of all of them, but they was just so soft. I was kind of used to grinding metal. So the first one I ended up taking quite a lot. So I just took a little bit off of 4 of them, and I think that should be good anyway. It's not enough to just grind more or whatever. Let's try to get this in place here. I think right there would be probably good. Gonna have to pull a little bit more in that one. And by the way, I did grind enough, so it seems to clamp it all in place pretty good. Yeah, that's not going anywhere. There we go. I think that's pretty good. And then if I want more slack here or less, I can just loosen it up and move the hose around. So I think these clamps are really nice actually. And here it probably ended up being a little tight. Probably should have moved it over, but I thought these would get so close then. I don't know. Doesn't really matter. I think this turned out okay too. Yeah, I'm pretty happy with that. So I think this is done then. Yeah, I think this is actually finished. At least I can't think of anything more to do really. Except trying it out, of course. And I found a little problem here, and that's when the grapple is like that and you open it, the hose is just getting pretty tight right here. Should have been just a little longer. Let's just try angling this a little bit. Something like that. Just pull these hooks down a little bit. Maybe that's enough. Let's try that again. It does seem to be a little better because it was pulled quite tight like that. Maybe it should be a little longer still, but I think that's pretty good. And you can see it's pretty hard against edges like that. That's why I want this wear protection, I maybe should call it. Because if you pinch it, the hose is not really gonna help. Not much anyway. But for wear protection, I think this stuff is pretty good. And also against like this. Yeah. And against edges like that, it's perfect to have this stuff. If not, it will probably wear through this hose pretty quickly. And actually, there's one more thing. And I don't know if I said that already, but why I wanted to go so high, that is because I want a forestry trailer behind this that I have built. That will be a future video on that. But I want this to clear that, because this is all mounted to the tractor, so when I turn, the trailer is gonna move, but this is gonna be still kind of in the middle, but the trailer is gonna move out to the side, so I can't just have this on the trailer, and don't want it just sticking straight back. But if I have it like that, it will clear the trailer. Maybe I should move this a little closer, but it will clear. But what I have done also, I just put a couple blocks of wood under there, because it's kind of low, like it was. Both because I want the trailer to go underneath here to mount to the tractor. Hitch right there, in there, right there. And also to have a little more clearance here to the trailer. I would like to make something out of steel to space it up. I don't know, 10 centimeters maybe here. But I kind of need this thing right now, so I don't really got time for that. And also just to try it out, I've just cut a couple pieces of wood, like a couple pieces of like 10 centimeters long off a log. So let's just go and screw those under here. So I thought to use a piece of red log, but I realized that the end grain is going to go like that, and I think it's going to break pretty easy. So I cut some pieces of just, I don't know, some 2 by something, which ended up being not really wide enough, but we'll use that anyway. And actually I thought this feet was a little smaller than it was. But let's place this a little better under here, and I'm just gonna start with 1, and if I need more I can just add that later. But I think 1 is maybe gonna be enough. There we go. That's actually, does these even fit? That fits, that fits, that fits, that doesn't fit. And this is just a test, so to see if this is good or bad or so. I don't really care how it looks. So. That hole is too small, so but 3 should be enough. There we go. And I think with this finished now, I'm gonna call this part of the project finished. Now let's just go and see if it matches up with the trailer and also lift something. So there we go. I got the thing finally hooked up. I've been messing around here with a bunch of stuff, just figuring any stuff out, and I finally got everything kind of working now. So I could hook this up. I had to mess around with the height of this, and anyway, it's nothing interesting. It seems to work now. I think, well, that maybe doesn't go up, but I just gonna have to drive that up a little more to get a little more clearance there. But I think this is looking really good. It's just that I can't load too far forward here, because then the grapple is gonna hit, but that's nothing. Yeah, I'm really happy with this. But Yeah, it's still kind of back heavy now, even if I got some weight in the front. I think I have to add a little more, but plus I think this cylinder there leaks quite a bit, so this thing goes down. That thing right there goes down pretty quickly. This all seems to work now, so let's go and do a little test lift now. And the videos on the trailer and building the hitch and adding some front weight on this thing is gonna come out sometime in the future. a little fiddly running it. It will definitely take a little while to get used to it, but I think it works really well. I'm really happy with this. The grapple and everything we did in this video seems to work really well. And yeah, it seems to be working really good. The only thing that we probably will need to do soon is to reseal this hydraulic cylinder and also do the rod, but that's a future problem. But for now, this is finished. So thanks for watching. I'll see you on the next one.